gloriam Domini tuum, et fac nobilis cum secundum multitudinem misericordiae tuae. Beati Immaculati in via, qui ambulant in lege Domini, omnia que fecist in nobis Domini, in vero iudicio fecisti, quia peccavimus tibi, et mandatis tuis non obedivimus, sed gloriam Domini tuum, et fac nobis cum secundum multitudinem misericordiae tuae. Est Domici in Deum protectore, et in locum refugi, ut salvum me Deus in te speravit, Domine, non confunda in Est Domici in Deum protectore, et in locum refugi, ut salvum me Before Abraham was, I am. the Jews got the message and started to look for stones. It could have ended there, but the cross was to be forever the sign of salvation. There were to be no shortcuts. This morning, a text by chance came to my attention, sent from France, but it was coming from the Holy Father. As there is this divine dignity, this filiation, this oneness in the Trinity between the Son and the Father, so too there is in the perpetuation of his sacerdotal power until the end of time a configuration and some kind of inseparability of power and authority and dignity. And it is a false humility that a bishop, a priest or a deacon should confuse the dignity which is his in virtue of that configuration to the order that has made him something else, and make it something which is actually drawing attention to himself, as though he could, with a false humility, not want respect, thinking that it's to him as a person that the respect is coming, and forgetting that it has nothing to do with his person, but it is towards Christ, the pastor, Christ, the servant, that this is being ordered. And so, when a priest, confusing and confounding the elements and the levels, sheds the accoutrements of what is his dignity, and also protests that he should be called by his first name without any title, and that there should be no difference visibly or invisibly between him and his people, he is forgetting that actually what he's doing there is supremely arrogating to himself, as though it were to his person that this honour was being given. It's just nonsense. One, out of respect for Christ, preserves the dignity and the otherness, a certain distance, a certain elevation, not because of the person, but because of Christ to whom he is configured. Now, the Holy Father has approached it in this passage from the other angle. It has been noticed that over these recent years, on the level of the Church itself, in many pockets, there have been huge movements towards not only the de-clericalisation of the priest, bishop and deacon, but also a clericalisation of the laity, partly because there are great qualities amongst the lay people that the hierarchy on every level wants to harness, and rightly so, but partly also because they have found that when a certain number of powerful lay people step into certain roles, then they find that actually they have their hands tied and things start to happen not always in accordance with their initial will. And to maintain the peace, they let that happen, and sometimes discourage the priest on the local level from reacting. So what is happening is this: we're having a double movement of de-clericalisation of those who are the kleros, the part, the heritage of the Lord, therefore set apart, and a stepping up into their place, bit by bit, of those who are not understanding the true nature of the lay vocation. Now, we must remember that the Vatican Council has spoken already about the nature of the laity and its vocation, the Holy Father pointing out that for his part it actually is not a help to have this kind of taking over and progressive transformation taking place. He puts it this way. In the talk given to members of the association Corallo, which presumably would be linked with the chorale, that is singing, and the ministry of sustaining liturgy, he says this: it is an error. A good layperson must remain what he is, continue thus, and grow thus. For my part, I consider that clericalism impedes the growth of the lay people. But it is also attended. Now he's going to the other side of it here, because he started off, before that passage is quoted, with the fact that this was coming from an invitation from on high, more and more, for the lay people to get involved. And now he's coming at from the other side, that actually there's a certain gratification and secret desire on the part of lay people to be so treated. But it is a temptation also on the part of the lay people, for a certain number among them want to be clericalized. Now, it's something that we observe by now in pretty well every corner of church life, more in some cultures than others, but it's coming in. And it is actually very, very difficult for a priest to be a priest. He is throttled, led, and pulled by those who think that authority has been given to them. And very few priests, and by now actually even bishops, seem to have the courage to say anything which might lead to unpopularity. That's the problem. I conclude. The mystery of orders is of a divine order. One cannot in any way confuse the essence. A priest is set apart. The correct way that he could have had help on the level of parishioners would have been, as in some countries, to promote greatly that which is of divine institution, the diaconate. They are the ordinary distributors, ministers of the body and blood of Christ, although historically it was the chalice that they were the minister of. When it comes to, as it were, a creeping clericalism coming in from the fact that others are being invited to touch the sacred species, which was linked before with the part of God, the clergy, kleros, who would then not touch other things in a certain way, then one gets the feeling, oh, they are actually different from ordinary lay people. And then they acquire other rights, blessing, ordering. They are category A in the lay people. One says, in conversation, does one not, oh, she is a Eucharistic minister. Again, a bad term. If anything should be used, it should be the correct terminology, extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. Again, bit by bit, this notion of something creeping them into the notion of almost being the clergy, the ordained, because they're close. And of course they start doing things which they have no right to do, like giving blessings, sacramentals, and so on. Now, let's be clear. This is not just social. We know where certain things start. It's a huge plan. Demolish, bit by bit, the separation between priest and people. One priest in France put it this way, unfortunately revealing what his thought was. A priest is so much more man. Agios, discreet, agios,